Welcome to The Explainer. We're diving straight into something radically different today. In what we call the butcher's view, we aren't just passively stargazing or looking at the universe from afar. We're carving it up. We're taking the infinite, swirling complexity of things like fractal pressure cosmology and esoteric geometry, and we're literally slicing it down into something tangible, something you can actually wrap your head around and hold in your hands. We're ditching the sterile chalkboards, and we're stepping right up to the butcher's block.
So you gotta ask yourself, how exactly do you organize infinity? It's a massive roadblock. Really, it's the roadblock we face with any deep theoretical science. The problem is always the exact same. There is just way too much data. We're talking boundless streams of information, intensely complex variables, esoteric concepts. When you're staring at the raw, unedited fabric of reality, it's completely overwhelming. You can't just swallow the universe whole, right? You need a way to break it down, to find the organic grain, and to separate those essential cuts from the chaotic noise.
I want you to hear this raw, unbridled intuition straight from our source notes. It says, "We are the froth and bubbles in a glass of beer, the cavitational wakes of the medium flowing." Now, that is a visceral, incredibly striking way to picture unstructured theoretical physics. It's basically suggesting that everything we perceive as solid matter is just the froth, the cavitation bubbles left behind by this massive, unseen liquid medium flowing all around us. It's a gorgeous thought, but in its raw state, it's pure chaos. It's completely unindexed, it's messy, and it is extremely hard to plug into any kind of strict mathematical framework.
Look, this is what we call our infinite slab. It is our raw block of untrimmed data. We are talking about thousands of pages of entirely unstructured research. You've got these intense ramblings on a 9.6-dimensional manifold sitting right next to, of all things, practical engineering concepts for energy-emitting photovoltaic glass. You've got deep dives into fractal pressure cosmology right alongside the 13-node vector equilibrium. It is this massive, completely unmanageable slab of absolute brilliance, and honestly, it's a bit of a headache. Without the right tool, it's just going to sit there as an unusable slab. But here is the solution: the digital cleaver. Throughout this explainer, we're focusing on how tools like Notebook LM function not just as your standard AI, but as an essential physical tool for the mind. Most people see an AI notebook. I see a cleaver. You do not use this tool to write your theories for you. You use it to slice through the fat of your own data. I uploaded my entire Butcher's Block series and all my personal notes, and it instantly indexed that chaos into prime cuts. It maps the intersection of all these wild theories based strictly on your sources, pulling out exactly what you need without inventing things or hallucinating data. The infinite suddenly becomes searchable.
Let's actually see this thing in action. Over on one side, in the raw chaos, it's just this jumble of unstructured notes about observer bias and this really mysterious 0.4-dimensional gap. It's the Wagyu fat of the data, right? Full of flavor, but totally impossible to digest raw. But then the digital cleaver strikes, and you get this beautifully trimmed data. The tool extracts it clean, perfectly structured mathematical definition, categorizing that 0.4 gap exactly as Hawking friction, which is essentially the thermal exhaust of the universe. It bridges human intuition with strict academic structure in literal seconds. All right, let's take a look at one of these prime cuts we've managed to extract. We call it the golden lattice. By indexing the chaos, we can clearly map the intersection of fluid topology and the pressure manifold. The research posits something huge here. The universe isn't some flat, boring grid. It's an organic, spiraling structure that is entirely governed by the golden ratio, or phi. This is the organic grain of the cosmos. If you try to measure this beautiful, curved reality with a flat, rigid 2D ruler, you are absolutely going to miss the truth. You have to cut with the curve. And you know what? The math perfectly reflects that curve. This is the omni-push equation, pulled directly from those dense theoretical notes. Standard physics often likes to treat gravity as this singular pulling force, but in the Butcher's view, gravity is actually an emergent thermodynamic pressure. It's an omni-push coming from a high-viscosity liquid vacuum. Think of this equation as slicing right along the organic grain of space-time itself. You aren't just looking at static numbers on a page. You're mapping the dynamic movement, the sheer fluid pressure that pushes everything in the universe together. When the cleaver really gets to work structuring the data, it lays out what we refer to as the master butcher's variables. First up, you have the meat. This is the metric tensor, the organic grain of space-time. And remember, we always cut with it, never against it. Second is the sink. This acts like an Aikido sink, where pressure naturally falls into the void rather than slamming into a solid wall. And finally, we have the floor shavings. This is that tiny 0.01 fractional variance that vents out, which allows the entire universe to actually breathe instead of just collapsing under its own immense pressure.
Which actually brings us to this incredibly fascinating, kind of messy number, 9.6. You know how scientists usually obsess over clean, whole numbers like exactly 10 dimensions? Well, the extracted research argues that because these dimensional seams overlap and fold in on themselves, they compress. The universe actually operates in a 9.6 fractional dimension. And a cleaver beautifully highlights exactly why this matters. That remaining zero point 0.4 dap, it's not a rounding error. It is literally the universe's required exhaust seam. It's the physical space where energy leaks out, which is what we observe as Hawking radiation, or even what we sometimes attribute to dark matter.
So how exactly does a tool organize an entire massive theoretical framework? It creates a structure, like the 24+1 primal ring table. Instead of just a jumbled mess of ideas, the data is strictly logically categorized. Ring A is your pure geometric grain. Ring B tracks all the kinetic movement. Ring C deals with those fractional seams and all the quantum weirdness. Ring D is absolutely crucial because it isolates human bias so it doesn't contaminate the math. And V25 is the final audit. It's what separates the pure, true signal from all the statistical ghosts.
This right here represents the ultimate prime cut. This parameter table is basically the Rosetta Stone of the entire research block, cleanly extracted from the initial chaos. It perfectly bridges pilot wave theory with golden ratio stability. By running that massive infinite slab through our digital cleaver, we get these exact numerical constants that are practically ready to be plugged right into a physics engine. It takes a philosophical, highly intuitive concept and turns it into a structured, deeply actionable framework.
But, we absolutely have to ground this all back in reality, the human element. The source notes hit the nail on the head here when they say, the butcher's intuition is the universe's secret weapon. Trust it. A cleaver is just a piece of metal. It doesn't know how to butcher a primal cut of meat on its own. It requires the master's hand. In the exact same way, this digital tool doesn't write your theories or invent your ideas. It just trims the fat and structuralizes the noise so that your unique sovereign intuition can actually shine through all that data.
The big takeaway here is this. If you're a researcher, a thinker, or creator, and you're dealing with everything, we're talking massive data sets, sprawling theories, infinite possibilities, you absolutely need a way to cut it down to size. Tools like Notebook LM act as that sharpest blade on your block, turning an overwhelming volume of information into actionable, structured insight. It doesn't do the work for you, it clears the block so you can get to work.
So I'm going to leave you with a final thought to chew on today. We've seen how this grounded, tactile approach can restructure our entire view of the cosmos itself. But I want you to bring it back to your own work. If you had the right cleaver, if you could effortlessly slice through the infinite chaos of your own raw data and research, what prime truth would you carve out first? Keep your tools sharp and always keep looking for the grain. Check the link in the description to try it out for your own research. And hey, if you want to see what I'm carving next, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.